Hey, no, sorry. Chavav base. Halacha Yurav. Hayavam lo tachlot lo tisyabim. This is a very fundamental Gemara tonight. Hayavam lo tachlot lo tisyabim. A woman cannot undergo chalitza nor yibum achil shlosh chadashim until she's remained 3 months after her husband's death in order to tell if she's pregnant or not. V'chein kol shar noshim, so to all other women, lo yinasu v'lo yisarsu, they should not get married nor even engaged, even betrothed. This is not our engagement. Our engagement you can make. This means a kiddushin without nisuit. They should not get betrothed until after 3 months. Achas besulos, this is true whether their initial husbands died when they were still virgins. Achas bulos, or they died after they had already had relations. Achas amonas, this is true about widows, achas krushos, and divorcees. Achas rusas, and does not matter if until now they're only betrothed, or achas nesuos, they were fully married. Rabbi Omer nesuos yisarsu. Women who were fully married previously may get the betrothed within 3 months of their husband's death. Varusos, women who were only betrothed previously, Su can even get married within 3 months of their husband's death. Why is that? Because it's assumed, this is the good old days, they didn't have relations when they were betrothed. They only got relations after they were fully married. With the exception of the Arusos in Yehuda, gospel, because they were intimate, and therefore it was suspected that they may well have had relations. That's what it says here. Rabbi Yossi Omer.
What does it mean Yehuda, by the way, the time of the mission?
The southern part of Eretz Yisrael, south of the Galil. Anywhere south of the foothills. Rabbi Yossi says, Kol anoshim yisarsu, tapu chavzayin. All women can be kept betrothed, chutzin almana, except for a widow, because she is in mourning. So he says, anybody get betrothed? Yes, within 3 months of a divorce, but not because of avelus, you have to wait. Here he says, for a widow, Rashi says, not the Korban says, not a full 3 months, but she has to wait 1 month before she gets betrothed, because she's in avelus for that 1 month. Akama Karasubar. How long does it take to see that woman is pregnant? Up to 3 months. Even though there's no clear-cut proof for this matter, there's evidence of commemoration of this. It says it was after about 3 months that it was noticed that Tamar was pregnant after she had relations with Yehuda. Pregnancy is pregnancy, even if a woman has is carrying a spirit, meaning something which is not a viable fetus. And the ramification of that is in Hilchos Nida. If a woman is pregnant, so she's not metame retroactively for the past 24 hours if she sees blood. If a woman is not pregnant, when she sees blood, she's metame all things she touched within the past 24 hours. Remember that from Masechta Nida, there's nothing to do with her prohibition to her husband, but specifically vis-a-vis Tumah and Tara. So a woman who is tummy retroactive for 24 hours, unless at the time that she saw the blood, she was pregnant, or or some other reason why her cycle stopped, in which case we say die or shaita. But from that time on, she becomes tummy, but not anytime retroactively. So that's true even if she's pregnant with a non-viable fetus of some sort. It's still not metame retroactively. And says Gemara, where do we see such a concept? In a post it says Harinu, we became pregnant, Chalnu, we had labor pains, Kamoya Ladu Ruach, as if we gave birth, but it turned out to be a spirit, meaning not a viable fetus. Or another pasuk, Taru Chashash, you will become pregnant with a suspicion. Tel Dukashi will give birth to straw. So obviously these are not viable pregnancies, but nonetheless they have the status for a tumantara of a pregnancy. Rabbi Zirai Baba Zutra.
They're quoting, these are, it's like Tochachon. This is
yeah.
During the
right.
Real pregnancies are talking about. So you're comparing like
right. It's not. It's a zecher ladavar too. It's not explicit proof, but that's to remind you that there is such a concept. Okay. Rabbi Zin, Rabbi Bar Zutra, Amar, Rabbi Chayina, they said in their name, Rabbi Chayina, B'Shem, Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Chia the Great. Afilu Rubel Sharishon. Now this is, you don't have to have 3 full months. Even the majority of the first month, Rubel Shachar, majority of the last month, and Tzai Sholim, and the middle month complete, that's about 61 days. That'll be sufficient to tell she's pregnant. Rabbi Asir Martishin Shleim no you tell after 90 complete days. Shmuel Amarahim Viburim, it's 3 months including the leap days. I mean 29, 30, 20, which is a little bit less than 90 days, right? It's 29, 30, 20 would be 88 days. Okay, or with 30, 29, 30, which would be 89 days, but not a full 90 days. So you have to have 3 months, but even their calendar months are not necessarily 90 days perfect. Not 90 days perfect, because there's no time in Jewish calendar when you have 3 30-day months in a row. There's no such thing. Okay? Says the Gemara, Asuv Dukum Rabbanan Tamon, a certain case came from the rabbis over there. Now the case was a case where this woman had been pregnant for 60 days, right? We don't know, however, we need to have the majority of both the end months and a full middle month. So they know she was pregnant at the end of this time, but they didn't know whether this is a contradiction to what we said before, because you only have the majority of 1 month, not the majority of the second one. Right? If it's 13 days of the first month and 17 days of the last month, or it's 17 days from the last month and 13 from the first month, and I goofed. Sorry, this is a woman who actually gave birth. She gave birth at the end of 5 months and 30 days, meaning 6 months, right? And we're trying to extrapolate from the concepts we use by seeing if a woman is pregnant or not to this case over here, okay? So the question is, how did we get to have 7 months? If we had 5 complete months and 2 partial months, so you need to have the majority of each of the partial months. How do you get that? Now, let me make this clear, which is kind of a difficult thing. We're really using calendar months here. We're not counting woman's gestation period as, whatever it is, 40 weeks from whatever she could conceive, or rather actually counting months. And the Gemara is asking, if you have 6 months and 30 days, does those 6 months and 5 months and 30 days, how do you look at that on the calendar? Was it 13 in the first month and 17 in the last month, or 17 in the last month, 13 in the first month? Because otherwise, the whole question makes no sense. If it's not calendar dates, but rather just extension of time. So what difference it makes? As long as you have enough days, it doesn't matter what days from what month. So it's only if you look at pregnancy in terms of the calendar dates and that affecting it that you can actually have such a question. Okay?
Why would they want to look at the pregnancy in the calendar?
Because it seems they held that you do. It seems that they had such a concept that it is linked to the calendar dates. I don't know exactly how they linked it. I don't know what happened. I guess people would get pregnant in the middle of a month, so they'd still count to the end of that month if you had the majority of the month, and then start from there. So you actually would accrue to you majority of a month, even though you didn't give birth at the beginning of the month. You understand what I'm saying?
It sounds like when they count the years according to the king.
Right. So we put everybody into the same type of counting. So that's what it says here. I mean, so they didn't know if it was how it worked. How to put the days in. So it says the Gemara, they want to say that it's questionable, maybe this woman actually, her child is a mamzer, because maybe she had relations with somebody else prior to the relations with her husband, and that's how she managed to carry this baby to term, because the term she had was much too short. So Rav Nachman and Yaakov said to them, it should be Abba Barba. This case, a similar case came from the Arba Barba with Shmuel's father and Rebbe, and they said the kid is kosher. Aber Barba Poligal Shmuel Brei. In this respect, Arba Bar argues in Shmuel's son. Because Shmuel's son said that's not that you have to have complete months. Right? He was talking about in terms of recognizing when the kid is born. So he said you have to have complete months, 29 or 30-day months. And here Abba Barba is saying that you don't have to have complete months. All you have to have is partial months at the beginning and the end. Says Gemara, no, he doesn't argue. Amar Rava Shah. He. Says Rava here, but can't be Rava. Says Rava. Can't be Rava. Rava doesn't go. Rava's not in Yerushalmi. Yeah. Another Rava. All right. So pseudo Rava. So Rava said, "Shani hiakora seubar." It's different. There's a difference between recognizing when there's a kid and shani leidoso and the birth, and that's why Shmuel and his father are not arguing. Hakora seubar l'chadashim shleimim. You can recognize the fetus after 3 complete months. However, his birth occurs according even to non-complete months. So, Lamai says, so far it still sounds like we're going with calendar months, just they don't have to be complete. Tamati learned over there, but Kami Kishuya. How long before a woman gives birth, if she starts flowing blood, can she be considered to be in the process of giving birth? And of course, the ramification is, if she's not in the process of giving birth, then the blood she sees will be called blood of Zava. If she's in the process of giving birth, then the blood she sees will be blood of labor. So how long? What?
We're talking about this is a full-term delivery, or this is a
full term? No, full term. So the question is, how long do we give it the benefit of the doubt and assume that the blood is Nida blood, how does Ziva blood, and not Ziva blood, rather, but labor blood. So it says the Gemara, even if 40, 50 days straight she bled and then gave birth, it's all considered to be labor blood. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Daya Chodashot, it's enough to give her month. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon Omrim, Enki Shiriyos Mishnei Shabbos is not more than 2 weeks. Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Rabbi Yvoah said, Zosomeris, from the fact that we said Chad Shah, right? Her month. The teacher us that a woman doesn't necessarily give birth by the calendar months, but rather she goes by partial months or by not just calendar. No, she goes by. Yeah, no, it's not just her own side, but it's not her own side, but it's partial months. So it's like we said before that she doesn't have to necessarily complete the month. Even a partial month is sufficient. How do we see that here? Because it says we give her Chad Shah. It doesn't say 30 days. We give her 30 days prior to the birth. We give her month. What does her month mean? So it means from Rosh Chodesh to whenever day the kid is born, depending on the length of the month. Not a full 30 days. Because they give birth based on the calendar month. And based on the calendar month, it's Chodashim Kutaim. There can be partial months, but again, we only go back within that month, not beyond and prior to that month, to give her the status of having labor pains and labor bleeding. Okay? Again, the Tzina Da'al Chodeshokot says her month is sufficient. Rabbeinu Boy Sof Tavar Chetele. Is this only true when she gives birth to viable pregnancy? Or Lo Afilu Ripila, is it not also when she miscarries? And miscarriage can happen any time in the middle of the pregnancy. So why say her Chodesh? Her Chodesh implies that she reached the last month of term. Maybe she didn't, maybe there's a miscarriage. So Mother doesn't answer how we know it's not to have miscarriage. That's going to the last month. I skipped Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Boon because it looks similar. Sorry. I'm going back 2 lines. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Boon Mishem Rabbi Vah says he says a woman gives birth based on complete months. The thing Dayak Chodshah, because it also he's medayik the word Chodshah, but not the way we were medayik before. The way we were medayik before, we learned Chodshah means even part of the month, as long as it's in the last Chodesh. Now we're learning Chodsha means the whole month, right? The entire month, whichever the last month is. So that doesn't necessarily mean, even though it probably means that she gives birth on the last day of the month, right? And we give her the 30 days prior to the last day of the month. That's very unlikely. It really can't mean that, because obviously they knew not every woman gives birth on the 30th day of her month, of the month. Some you could say that the Violet Mukutoi means she gives birth on any of the days of the month, and that's the date of her birth, even though it's a little bit early, because they come a little bit early. But you can't say that there's opinion that holds, no, she has to be on the 30th day of the month every month. It can't be. So I think what it means is when it says Nosim Lo Chadasho, according to this perspective, it means we give her month prior to having given birth, and that is all considered to be the final month of labor pains. And that's considered to be her month, as opposed to 30 days, which would be something else other than that, which would mean that it would always be, why wouldn't we say 30 days?
Why can't you say her month means that her cycle starts with her pregnancy? The month belongs to her. Her clock starts and she becomes pregnant around one day of the month. And the month is just...
Well, that will work out according to this opinion. That we give her 30 days at the end, which is her month. But according to the first opinion, it says that we give her any part of 30 days from the beginning of the month to when she gives birth. That simply cannot be. Because it obviously means that it goes by calendar months. It's just that the last month it can happen at any time.
It's a month of right?
Right. But that's the second opinion. The first opinion, however, stresses the word chodesh as opposed to 30 days. So the first opinion stretches chodj. Right. Second opinion stretches chodsha. Right, the hay at the end, right? So one is the chodesh, now which we look at the monthly calendar. The other is that if we look at her last 30 days. That's the difference of opinion. Okay, it says, and again, the Gemara asks, this whole liberation makes sense for waiting to give birth. But lo afilu apilas, it's not true even if she miscarries, which might be any time of pregnancy. The Gemara does not address that. Gemara goes on. Alright, Mother said, Shamis b'shem Shmuel. I heard in the name of Shmuel. Yeah, of course, the same parameters of the month, whether they're whole or partial, apply both to recognizing that the mother is pregnant and to the term of the baby's gestation period. Amrai Baba Koi Kum Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Baba Koi said from Rabbi Yossi. Oh, I skipped again. I'm skipping again. The late son Asiyotas min ma shamas. I don't know from whom I heard this. Rabbi Baba Koi Kum Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Baba Koi said from Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amara. Rabbi Yirmiyah said it. Amarle Rabbi Chizkiah Lom Rabbi Yirmiyah. So Rabbi Chizkiah said, "Hey, you're wrong, Rabbi." Rabbi Yirmiyah didn't say it. Says he didn't say it wrong. It doesn't say that there, right? But that's the inference here. The ikbar Rabbi Yossi was upset at him. Now there's upset at him. There are two versions given for that. He was upset at him because he was chutzpahdik. He said, "You're wrong, Rebbe." Or as they say in Skokie Yeshiva, "You're wrong, Rebs." So that was Rabbi Yossi. That was according to Korban Eidah the complaint. Korban Bnei Moshe, and tells that they call the Ravim Rebs.
They never addressed him in second person.
Yeah.
The rabbi is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is gone.
So, according to Moshe, he was upset at the fact, though. He was upset not at the way Rabbi Chizkiah addressed him, but rather upset that Rabbi Chizkiah was simply wrong. That Rabbi Yirmiyah, in fact, had said this, right? So he retorted to him sharply. He said, "You should know that even Yoshua Shayav Koshel Moshe. Yoshua was the hand which tied Moshe. I guess put the tefillin on Moshe's hand. So it's a metaphor, right? Yoshua was very tight with Moshe. Lo Amar Kain. He didn't say you're wrong, Rebs. V'at Amar Kain. You said this. You are a despicable, vile student. Chazav Amar. he said, Rabbi Chizkiel came along and explained, I didn't mean that the Rabbi Yirmiyah didn't say Chas v'Shalom. Of course you were right, Rabbi. Rather, Inda Marah, he said it. El Kinish Shama Milam Akshele, but he didn't say it and meant it as a psak halach. He brought it down in order to ask questions and discuss it, not because he actually meant to accept the statement of halacha that which he quoted, that which Rabbi Yirmiyah quoted, that Akar Uber and Leidos are both 30-day months, 90 days or 270 days respectively. Says where Arba Baba Poligal Shmuel. Now, this is this is the question here that Rabbi Yirmiyah asked when he heard that both are 30 days. Both are complete months. Because in our case, Arba is arguing on Shmuel's son. Because Arba said it's partial days, right? And Shmuel said it's full days. So then you would have a contradiction between the two of them. So instead of having the father and son contradict each other, it's much better to say that there's a difference between giving birth, in which it's full 30-day months, or Koras Ubar, recognize the peace, which is not full 30-day months, but rather partial months work as well. Okay, it says in Rabbi Brechia B'Shem Shmuel said, Lo Elam Ishiu Ledet, a woman never gives birth, unless 271 days, or Masayim Shivim Shnayim are 272 days, or Masayim Shivim Shlosha or 273 days, or Masayim Shloshim are 274 days have passed. Okay? It's very, very precise. 270, 274. What is the machlokas, says Rashi? The machlokas is, do we count the days in which it takes for the sperm to fertilize the egg, which I guess are 3 days. So if you count them, so it comes out to close to 274. If they're beside the gestation, if they're considered to be the catalyst, but not the actual gestation period, then it's only 270. Something to that effect. That's how they explain it. Okay, I would explain it simply. I would just said that they could be off by a little bit. Not has anything to do with fertilization, but it's not always exact. But Mara seems, the Kohen Raid at least, doesn't seem to like that shot. Ramana said, Minan Shama Rebbe Adam Ilsa. From where did you, so where did you hear this? Amalei said, Rabbi, B'chava Shitasa Rabbi is a contradiction. Rabbi, it seems to exchange his views. Tam Ramar Shani Akar Sumer Shani Leidah. So there he said, there's a difference between Akar Subar, which is 3 months complete, and his birth, which is partial months. Yet here he says precisely 270, 271, 272, 273, 274, which means there's no possibility for partial months, right? So only one of those figures. So says the Gemara. That's the Mr. Middle question. Right. And here he says that it's precisely 270, 271, 272, 273, 274 days. So Rabbi Shmuel said no. He said Kol Shehu. Now here the girsa is changed by the Pnei Moshe. It should be Kol Shehu Beharbei, Hareu Be'arbei. In other words, not Behei Rabbah and Elif Rabbah, but Be'arbei and Arbei. Now what does that mean? So he explains, I forgot to explain to him. 1 second. Oh, yeah. Anything which is a longer gestation period has increased demands on time. What I mean to say is he's going back to principle that we have 7-month pregnancies and 9-month pregnancies. And that which the months can be shorter months is only by 7-month pregnancies. By the time it's a 9-month pregnancy, they have to be complete term months. So Koshu Bar Bay, the more you add gestation period, hareu barbeh, you add to that gestation period not just months, but actually time in the month. And it's not just enough to have rov of a chodesh, you have to have the entire chodesh. So therefore the bottom line is that a 9-month baby has got to have a more complete term than the preemies born after 6 months and one day, or whatever the shiur was. Okay, there you can have kutoim, cut off months. Here you can't have cut off months. So I'm making myself clear?
What's the ramifications of that?
Say Chilul Shabbos. You have premature child, which when do you expect them to survive so you be Mechal Shabbos on them? Okay, nowadays they can save anybody, with a reasonable chance, but back then, so you have to know how viable the fetus was. It's one possibility. Similar possibilities. Okay, so it says the Gemara, Rav Chirashi Abiyasi come with the Rav. Rav Chirashi was sitting in front of Rav. Chamisi Mavis. Rav saw Rav Chirashi was afraid. Amalei, so he said, okay, what's going on? Amalei, so he said, Rav Chirashi said, Chamarti Ma'abra, my donkey's pregnant, V'boy Melech, it's time for her to give birth. V'ana boy Marbi'is, and I want to go heat her up. I looked inside so she shouldn't get too cold in the process of giving birth. So Rav said, Amalei, Emosai Allah Aleh Zachar. When did she have relations with the male that she's now, with which she conceived the current fetus? So it says the Gemara, Amalei Biyom Pulan. So he said, no, so she said on a certain day. B'chashav, so Rav considered, Amallah, he said to her, Bayi at Kedon. She needs until this period of time. Means she's not going to give birth today. You might think she's in labor, but it's false labor, because his gestation period, her gestation period, is not over yet. You know what the gestation period of a chamor is? A year. So he reckoned a year, wasn't he? Had time for the year. Right.
Suppose it was Shabbos that he didn't heat up the
No, he didn't want his Talmud to leave the shiur. So he's telling him, you don't have to worry, your donkey's not going to give birth, it's not going to give birth today. And obviously it didn't. Okay? Says the Gemara, the Tanic we also listen to the Brayso, Chamarta Pocheses Eina Pocheses, Chamarta, a donkey was giving birth, Pocheses, and minimally, its gestation period is the same time as the amount of days in a lunar year, which is 354, right? And there are other days which has the same span as a solar year, right? Musefes, so if they add, the minimum gestation period is 354 days. The maximum is 365 days. And Rav Nuland, that they reckon was still before the 354 days. Okay? Says more further. Milsa Rabbi Shimon Levi, does that what I'm up to? Are you all with me? Milsa Rabbi Shimon Levi. But Pliga. The words of Yerushalmi Levi argue, and he says that, but the gestation period is not fixed by animals. Yerushalmi Levi said, "Bikoretz." Interesting word. Amani means critique. Here means a herd of cattle. Michel Malchus belonging to the king. Avra passed through the city, whatever city it was, Tveri, I assume, or Beit Sharim, somewhere in the Galil. And as this cattle was going through, the Alsa Rebbe took from their good stock to use a stud in order to make their own oxes pregnant. And then we know that they were not all born at the same time. They were staggered. Some were born shortly thereafter, some were born afterwards. So how do you reconcile? It says more by Be'ema Torah it has a set gestation period. By Be'ema Tmei it doesn't have a set gestation period. It can always be any time. Okay? What's the logic? I don't know. It's an observed phenomenon. You want to say something?
They obviously weren't zookeepers or something.
Yeah. You barely know what a donkey is.
I've never referred to it as donkey.
What did he say? He said I think the proper term though is not. I think the proper term is a jackass. Yeah. Not the three-letter word. I read a joke recently of some sort about that, but I can't remember what it was. So I'll just skip it. Says more further. New sugya. Rabbi Meir choshesh l'gitin. Rabbi Meir. Now this gets back to our Mishnah. There's a three machlokas as to when you have to have the woman wait 3 months. Rabbi Meir says anytime there's a divorce, she has to wait 3 months. Any divorce. Rabbi Yehuda said no, it's not every divorce. It's only if there's a potential there was a kid. Right? Suppose she's 75. You have to wait 3 months. Right, I suppose. Yeah, based on actuarial tables, you diminish the amount of time she has to wait. Suppose she was only an arusa, so you don't have to wait because she was only an arusa, right? Right, Stephanie, you were right. So it all goes by divorce. Rabbi Yehuda he goes by suspicion of child. Now it could, but not by divorce, right? In other words, Rabbi Meir says a divorcee, even though there's no suspicion of child. Rabbi Yehuda says somebody was a suspicion of child, even though there's no divorce. For example, a woman who's raped has to wait 3 months before her next set of relations. Okay? Says the Gemara.
She's married?
No, she's not married. She's not married. A girl's not married is raped. When can she next get married?
What about, unfortunately, if a married woman is raped?
Well, same idea. Sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're the same idea. Even though there's no get. Rabbi Yossi Choshesh getting Vlad, he says that's you need both cases. In other words, it has to be both the case where there's a get and where there's a potential yichus problem. But one problem without the other, you don't have to wait 3 months. If it's only a get problem, only yichus problem, you don't have to wait 3 months. It's a big cooler, okay? Says Gemara, Ayin Tamar. How are you going to know delay? Where are you going to bring a proof? Delays Rabbi Yossi Choshesh again. Rabbi Yossi couldn't care less if it's a get situation or not, as long as it's not a yichus situation. It's not because he said in our Mishnah, Arusos yinasu miyad. It said women are only betrothed previously and get married immediately, so he sees not choshesh for getting. He doesn't say you have to take a get. No. Well, yes, he's not choshesh for getting. Where he's only choshesh for Vlad. So even though there's a get after Erusin, he still doesn't make it wait 3 months, because it only makes it 3 months where the potential problem is with the kid. Now where there's a potential problem because not where there was a divorce. Okay? What? It needs both. It's not a choshesh for either or. It's only a choshesh case where you have both conditions. That there was a divorce and there's a potential for pregnancy. Rabbi Zir B'Shem Rabbi, it should be Gidol, said, a woman who created marriage contracted by her mother or brother doesn't have to wait 3 months. However, if she repudiated gets out of marriage with divorce, then she's a minor, she has to wait 3 months. That's a very Meir. Meir says they always go after the get issue. Rabbi Babashe, Rabbi Abba said, if she was raped, she doesn't got to wait 3 months. Rabbi Yossi right for Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi choshash l'kituvat. Rabbi Yossi says that it's only if there's a get plus Vlad problem. Because here there's certainly a Vlad problem if the woman is raped, right? We don't know whose kid it is. But nevertheless, since it's not a get problem as well, since it's a rape issue, not a divorce issue, so therefore you don't have to wait 3 months. What's the problem?
Doesn't make sense.
Why?
Because there's a chashuv. The whole reason to wait is to make sure that the child belongs to the future husband. So if she was raped.
That's the reason, but it's very often with Takoras Rabbana takes on a life of its own.
Well, that's not the
It's the feeling.
Yes.
But it's not the reason of Rabbi Yossi, because otherwise he wouldn't say Choshesh.
No, I think it is the reason Rabbi Yossi.
Then he would say that's what Rabbi Yudah says.
The question is how Chazal set up the Takon. The reason for all three might be the same.
No, if you throw in another element, that means your focus is not the Vlad. Your focus seems to be the get.
Yeah, but they would just say it's low shchiach. Really, we really want to have it in all cases where there's a yichus problem. But a case of yichus problem without a divorce is not shchiach, so therefore they want choshesh. They'd say something like that.
She might actually be raped from the rapist.
Yeah. So if that happens, we'll deal with it. I guess. I have no other way of understanding it. Okay? Says the Gemara. I didn't look it up. I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't look it up. I don't remember. Messiah Rabbi Yossi. We just read that. Tani, 3 lines above. Hagior is a woman who is a convert. Hashir, a woman who is taken to captivity. Hashir, a woman who is a maidservant. Shaniftaru and Ishtacharu, who were redeemed or became Jewish, or were redeemed or were given their freedom. Still, Zati Shosh Chodosh and Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe they have to wait 3 months to see if they have a child from their previous state affairs. You don't have to wait. Why? Because they're not cases where there was a get, right? He's consistent, right? Well, but Damin, what about a woman who just converted and of all the misfortunes, she starts seeing blood of Nida immediately. So here the question is the same question of Tuma we had. So she is mitami retroactively made slaves or only immediately? Oh, so the Amudi Yerushalmi says the question is not for the time she wasn't Jewish. That's obvious. But let's say within 24 hours she saw blood after she went to the mikveh. So is it from the time she sees the blood, or because 24 hours ago she wasn't Jewish, or is it from whatever point she converted within the past 24 hours that say she's totally retroactive? See, immediately somebody becomes Jewish. Tuma, tough luck. That's right. That's Judaism. Welcome to the club. Says Gemara further. The Dom is same as Rabbi Yehuda Mer Matame 8 slaves. So Matame retroactively. Rabbi Yossi Mer. So I Shaita only from here on in. By the way, Pnei Moshe changes the girsa. So who says what in this machlokas? I'm Rabbi Yehuda told me by Rabbi Yehuda by blood that it's retroactive. To Rabbi Yossi Vlad that it's only a case where there's Vlad plus get, but not where there's one if not the other. I'm Rabbi Chena Braid Rabbi Yavo. Rabbi Chena said Abba Havli Uvda. My father had a case of a woman who case? Oh, Gioris, thank you. Okay. My father had a case of the Gioris, right? V'shach shlo Rabbi Chia. He went to ask Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Ami, brother Rabbi Yossi Vlad, and they told Rabbi Yossi in the child that you don't have to wait unless there's a get. And in this case, Gioris is not a get, so therefore she doesn't have to wait 3 months. But it's pretty nice, cool. I was thinking about that. You know, like there's this couple from Kalispell who wants to have an Orthodox conversion. So what happens when a couple converts? So that fortunately we don't pass in that way. That's what it says here. Because we only pass in the Rabbi Yossi that it's a case of get, not a case of Vlad. I mean, at least according to the way the Gemara comes out here. So there's no get involved because just the conversion, so they can live together immediately.
They can live together, and if she isn't
converted. That's correct. Fine, nicht gefährlich. Okay. So here it says Gemara further. The loke man or nomrin says Gemara. Why do you have to question? Why do we have said otherwise? Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, and look, Rabbi Yossi. Don't we say wouldn't we pass Rabbi Yossi over Rabbi Yehuda anyway? Begin to on Rabbi Nirin. No, I'll tell you why. Because Rabbi said Nirin to Rabbi Yossi. Nirin means it seems like Rabbi Yossi, but it's not necessarily 100% accurate like Rabbi Yossi. Okay, now Amar Rabbi Baba B'Shem Rabbi Zira, dear Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Zira. Any place Rabbi uses the language of Nirin, it's still machlokes, and it's not a determination of psak. Chutz me, except for a certain case, the eagle shall dveila, the praise of the eagle shall dveila, which is not important for us to know exactly what to say about that. Say about pressed dates, and you pressed a suffix on one of them. You don't know which mountain, which place you pressed it, so it has to be bit of a rope. In that case, since each antagonist of Machlokas agree with the other certain points, so Rabbi, there where Rabbi said Nirin, he probably meant to pass in that way, because it's not going to involve Machlokas, but rather in determining, resolving practical affairs. Rabbi Yossi said, Kashisi kum Rabbi China Brei the Rabbi Avo. This is a Gemara which appears several times in Yerushalmi, well, at least twice so far. I had a kasha for Rabbi China Brei Avo. I feel though. Oh no, not yet. Sorry, it's later on the page. I take that back. This is not a famous Gemara. This is a very obscure Gemara. Scratch that. We'll come back. I had a question. I feel double Boris and evil law. We're guilty. So well, we knew that they were making whoopee the night before. So it says the Gemara, I feel double Boris and evil law. Well, of course, the stam goyis. Local people say, what do you assume most goyis do all the time? So therefore, since that's the case, yes, the chiddush is that even though you know that the night before they had relations, nevertheless, you don't have to make them wait 3 months. Okay? Again, because ramifications are not so bad. So what? The case came from Rabbi Yochanan, where Rabbi Yossi paskin like Rabbi Yossi, that you don't have to wait 3 months. Rabbi Lezer was the time Rabbi Yochanan was mitzvah. He was upset. Omar said, Shavkin Stama. They're leaving a Stam Mishnah. Our Mishnah is a Stam Mishnah, which and says, anytime when there's a chashash of a flood, a potential yichus problem, you gotta wait 3 months. How can they, Rabbi Yochanan, forsake a Stam Mishnah, and follow the opinion of an individual of Rabbi Yossi? Ashkach Tani law, so he found a brisa that Rabbi Chia said, B'Shem Rabbi Meir, that our Mishnah, which says you have to wait even after Yichus Pram, that's going like Rabbi Meir. No, our Mishnah says you have to wait after a Get Pram, and which also would not affect the Gioris, right? A Get Pram also not affect the Gioris, and that's going like Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Meir is the one that says Cheshish L'Git. Right? So our Mishnah is going like Get Pram, that's going like Rabbi Meir. So it's not a Stam Mishnah, a true Stam Mishnah, because we found there was only a single Tana who held that way, not all the Tanoim. And the Stam Mishnah we pass like, we generally pass that way because we assume the Roiv, the majority of Tanoim, follow the opinion expressed by the Stam Mishnah. But yeah, it's not the case, because here we found the Stam Mishnah represents, in fact, a minority opinion. So it says, it says here Rabbi Shimon, that's a big typo. It should be in Tzek Rabbi Shimon Kat. When? Shama Lord, the time Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Meir. When he heard that the Rabbi Chia learned until Rabbi Meir said this, Omar said, Yo Sabo Yoda Pirkei Tribi Garmei. Rabbi Yochanan knows how to answer himself well, because he has a pasuk which supports his point, not a pasuk. Rather, he has a brisa which supports his contention that we don't pass like this time, because this time is the opinion of an individual. Rabbi Mana kum Rabbi Yudan. Rabbi Mana asked for Rabbi Yudan. Now here, this is the famous part. Rabbi Mana asked for Rabbi Yudan. Tamar Amar Rabbi Chizkiah. Then over there, Rabbi Chizkiah saying, Rabbi Avo say, B'Shem Lezer, and Rabbi Lezer. Kol makom sheshana Rabbi Machlokas because of Shana Stam. Any place Rabbi learned the Machlokas. And then afterwards he mentioned one of the opinions as a Mishnah without attribution. So then, if that's the case, halacha is Stam Mishnah. Halacha is like the Mishnah without attribution. But here I can see otherwise. What's our Mishnah is a Stam Mishnah. We have it's Yochid or Rabbi Lamites, it's a Stam Mishnah. So we have to pass them like our Mishnah. Right? Now, that says the Gemara is where Rabbi said a machlokas and then a Stam. But here, that's not true. There was no machlokas before this Mishnah. We added this Mishnah out of the blue. We said about when you have to do separate for 3 months. But it doesn't say anything in our Mishnah about there being machlokas prior to the Stam Mishnah, right? So you can't. That's not the same principle, right? So it says more. Rav said, maybe somebody else said the machlokas here, but not Rebbe. Where Rebbe juxtaposed the machlokas and then the Stam Mishnah, they about like the Stam Mishnah, but Rebbe didn't do it here, right? Says the Gemara, Min Mahain the Shana Rebbe Masnisin. In a case. Oh no, I saw a middle sentence. Wait. That says Marnon. Let's make a kavachomer. This is a retort. Rav said maybe this is somebody else in the machlokas. Rebbe said the Stam. So there's no principle of machlokas and Stam. And everyone says no. Mean mine, if in the case the Shana Rebbe Masnis and machlokas that Rebbe learned in his Mishnah a machlokas because of Shana Stam. First machlokas and then he said without the attribution. If you say in that case halacha is Stam like the Stam Mishnah, asoi to lo mashkech Rebbe Masnis and machlokas. The place where Rebbe did not bring or did not cite or not find a brayso of the machlokas. The others, Rabbi Chia and the Bryce is beyond the Mishnah with the machlokas. The Rebbe Shana Stam and the Rebbe in his Mishnah were without a machlokas. Lo koshke te'elo the Stam is not kavachomer should be a long Stam Mishnah. So it's even a place where Rebbe brought the machlokas, and then there was a Stam Mishnah we passed like the Stam Mishnah where Rebbe didn't bring the machlokas. The machlokas just appears in the Bryce, and Rebbe learned the Stam Mishnah. We certainly should pass like the Stam Mishnah. That should be superior. We're not trying to climb out of machlokas. We have the Stam Mishnah of itself. That should suffice. So it says the Gemara. Ra'asur Chizkiah, Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, Rabbi Shim Barabba, Shem Rabbi Lezer, they in fact made a statement. Still part of the question. Rabbi Shona Stam, Halacha Stam. He were understood about Halacha said Rabbi said a Stam Mishnah, it was like the Stam Mishnah. So therefore we come back to the original question, how can Rabbi Yochanan pass like an individual, only like Rabbi Yossi? So Shmuel Barunia B'Shem Rabbi Yaakov said, I don't understand your whole question. Why does Shem Machlokas say it's so Stam? You know where we pass like Machlokas Chayach Stam? We have a machlokas for Hakach Stam, but here there's a whole machlokas in this Mishnah itself, right? In this Mishnah, you had Tarakama, who's the Stam, and then you had Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, right? So you can call it the Stam Mishnah. The Stam Mishnah is where no other opinion appears in our attribution, but here there are 2 other opinions which appear in our Mishnah. So your whole premise is incorrect. We pass like a Stam Mishnah after a machlokas. Maybe in a Stam Mishnah after machlokas, which is outside of Shas. But here, it's not a Stam Mishnah. A Stam Mishnah where it's only the Stam opinion appears, not in the other opinions. Here we have a machlokas in the same Mishnah. Okay?
Doesn't the Stam Mishnah, can it have a minority opinion?
No, that's what he's saying. Can't. Says specifically, it tries once in Tainus, once in Megillah, the Yerushalmi. No, it has to be without any other opinion divergent. Otherwise, it's not a Stam Mishnah. Okay? That's what it says here. Rabbi Stam Yossi Rabbi Mishem Rabbi Yaakov said, Rabbi Yochid Etzel Yochid. Also, you should know, when do I pass like a Stam Mishnah where I know it's one individual against another individual? Where it's the Stam Mishnah was one individual, and it was another individual argued. So the Stam Mishnah is like a weight on the side of the person who's they are disputed, who's now cited as a Stam. However, Rabbi Yochanan is chachamim. But if Rabbi happened to make a stam mishnah, we know that stam mishnah is like an individual, and that the bulk of the chachamim argue lo b'dah loch stam. In that case, don't say it looks like stam. And here, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda both argue Rabbi Meir, right? Says the Gemara on Rabbi Yochanan said, "Kol makom sheshana stam mishnah is the rabbana." Any places where you have a stam mishnah, it's the rabbis. It is the majority of rabbis. Our chief shlo should be rabban. So it says a specific rabbi made the statement. Of Shimon Log Shemar Kol stam mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Any stam mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Stam mishnah Rabbi Meir, one of our famous principles, right? Ad shefarish rabba until they tell you some other author was the rabbi of the mishnah. I'm Rabbi Zil Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi, Lo Shimon Log Shpoli. It's not arguing. Right, he also holds that stam mishnah is like Rabbana. Rather, El Duchami Rov stam mishnah is Rabbi Meir, so that most of them are like Rabbana and like Rabbi Meir. So that's why one says Rov mishnah is like Rabbana, the other says like Rabbi Meir, and it's not a contradiction, right? Rabbi Zir boy Kui Raimona. Now nobody understands the next Gemara again, but I'm going to give you my understanding. Rabbi Bo, I mean, they do understand, but very schwach, very difficult. Rabbi Zir boy Raimona. Rabbi Zir asks for Raimona. Haidanu Rabba, what's a greater proof? Rabba de Masnisa is a greater proof of Brisa, or Rabba Dubra is a greater proof of your Rebbe teaches you. That's Taylor! Which is better, right? The text or the mimetic tradition, right? Because what do you get when you see a Brisa, or do you see what your Rebbe teaches you? So it says, more Leis Milsa the Rabbi Lezer, more Rabba the Masnisa. Rabbi Lezer, he didn't trust his Rabbi Yochanan until he found a Brisa like him. Right? He's very upset with Rabbi Yochanan until he found a Brisa which sounded like him. So you see what's better? The Brisa, Rabba the Masnisa, right? Because it says, you can't hear it shouldn't say Rabbi Shimon say Kachama, the time of Rabbi Chia b'Shem Rabbi Meir. Only when you heard it was a Brisa of Chia named Rabbi Meir. Only then Omar Yo Sada Yoda Pirka and Shemi Garmei. Only then you say, oh, Rabbi Yochanan has been vindicated. So it says, well, no, not necessarily. No more, we could say Ufon Kiva Mi Rabbi, right? It could be accepted what his Rebbe said, but he was unhappy. Now it could be taka what you get for your Rebbe is more important, and what Rabbi Yochanan told him he accepted, but he was still not happy about it until the Masnisa cut Shama Rabbi Chia b'Shem Meir, and there must be a couple words missing here. It should say when he heard the price of Rabbi Chia and Meir, so he was also happy about it. But in a Chanami, it could be taka what you learn from your Rebbe is superior to what you learn in a price. Okay, new sugya. Acholetzis, a woman who does chalitza, mona b'shas misa. She counts to 3 months from the moment her husband died. Hayatz begat, a woman who gets a get, mona b'shas nesiyas kita, counts the time her get was given. Hayachinaman b'shas nesiyas kita, says indeed the time her get was given. Hayachaman b'shas ksiva, from the time the get was written. Rav and Shmuel, Rav says Rabbi Chanina from the time the get is given. Shmuel Rabbi Yochanan, the time the get is written. Meisir Shmuel Rav or Shmuel as Rav. Al Daichel according to you that Tom Rabbi Shatzasina. You say for the time it's given. Mishumar Choshish. So what are you afraid of? Why not for the time it's written? Mishum Shis Yachtim in a sign, because maybe from the time it's written until the time was given they had yichud together, and maybe they had relations, right? So maybe you can't count from until that, except from that time. If that's the case, if you have yichud after a get is written, then the get is batel. That cancels the get. There may be no yichud between the husband and wife from the moment the get is written until the moment the get is utilized. So it should be a much worse problem. If you're going to be afraid that they had yichud and there was hanky-panky going on, so then it should render the get unfit, right? Says the Gemara, and on the other hand, Meisar Chin Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chin as Rabbi Yochanan, Daitcha Da'atom Shas Ksiva. According to you, holds that we go for a time reading, writing. How was naked? If a guy had 2 wives on a divorce, he was on a divorce bench. He was writing two getting for 2 different wives. One was written today. One was written 2 weeks later. They both came around the same day. So you come up with a preposterous situation. You're going to get one get married earlier based on her get having been written 2 weeks earlier. That sounds too difficult to allow. Mandava Musa Rav Shmuel Avutrav Shmuel hates Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Chanina as Rabbi Yochanan. Mandava Rabbi Yochanan Moses Rabbi Chia that's Rabbi Yochanan as Rabbi Chanina hates Shmuel as Rav. After all this discussion, by a get, you count for a time certain, if he didn't have any solitude with her. Period. Now, getting to the next part of Mishnah. Amona, because of Avela, she can't get married in the first month after her widowhood. That's by the women. They only have to wait 1 month. Men have to wait if they have kids, they have to wait 3 Yom Tovim before they get remarried. But if he doesn't have kids, he ought to get married immediately because of Purah. And also, when does he have to wait 3 Yom Tovim? When he's got somebody to serve him other than his wife, deceased wife, like an older daughter. Doesn't have anybody to serve him, he can get married immediately. And when does he have to wait 3 Yom Tovim when he doesn't have young children? Then he needs someone to take care of his kids. Miyad, he get remarried immediately. Like this episode. Rabbi Tarfon's wife died, right? And then while he was still in the cemetery, he said to his wife's, deceased wife's sister, he can see, come into my house, the godliest b'nei and raise your sister's children. Nevertheless, Kinsa, he took her in as a wife, but lo ikira, they didn't have relations. So it's only in order to have that his kid should have somebody to watch them. All right, we'll stop here for tonight. So chas v'sholom, we don't run into Baruch and we will learn not Monday night, but we'll learn Tuesday night, but probably not here because I think it's already been as manim here. Okay, so probably we'll learn in base tefillah. We'll see.